एक त्रिकोण बनता है. We are going to talk about this dangerous triangle which is trying to destabilize India. और ये जो त्रिकोण है, इसमें एक तरफ अमेरिका में बैठे जॉर्ज सोरोस, उनकी फाउंडेशन है, कुछ अमेरिका की एजेंसीज भी है. त्रिकोण के एक बहुत बड़ी न्यूज पोर्टल है जिसका नाम OCCRP, ऑर्गेनाइज्ड क्राइम एंड करप्शन रिपोर्टिंग प्रोजेक्ट, जिसके विषय में आप सब पत्रकार हैं, आप सभी जानते हैं, वह है. और त्रिकोण के जो आखिरी कोने में, जो सबसे महत्वपूर्ण कोना जो हिंदुस्तान से संबंध रखता है, उस कोने में राहुल गांधी है, ट्रेटर ऑफ द हाईएस्ट ऑर्डर. और आज जब मैं ये शब्द प्रयोग कर रहा हूं तो मुझे किसी प्रकार का भी भय नहीं है.
Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about an explosive accusation that the Bharatiya Janata Party of India has made against the United States government, specifically the State Department, and is claiming that a segment or a section of the US State Department, the so-called deep state, is collaborating with a platform that studies and investigates corruption overseas, and Rahul Gandhi to try and destabilize India, and particularly Narendra Modi and his government. This allegation is made by Sambit Patra. He is one of the leaders of the Bharatiya Janata Party, and you might have seen his opening comments in the beginning of this video. And it is very interesting. Clearly, this accusations are being made against the Department of State to essentially claim that Gautam Adani, the billionaire who has been indicted in the United States for corruption, for bribing Indian politicians to the tune of $260 plus million to basically sell expensive electricity to Indian states. So he has been indicted by US Department of Justice and is being investigated by the FBI, not just for corruption in India, which if you are seeking funding from US stock market. So most people in India who claim that the US is exercising extrajudicial powers are actually incorrect, because the reason why Gautam Adani is being investigated is because he raised $170 million from the New York stock market, and he basically took that money from American investors, and therefore his actions fall within the purview of the US government, and therefore the US government is investigating him. But this accusation coming from the Bharatiya Janata Party is quite explosive, and we will discuss what they are claiming and what it means for US-India relations going forward. But before I get into the details, please subscribe to Khanversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this video with the rest of your crew. So this is what Sambit Patra essentially alleges. The BJP accuses the State Department of funding a media group to destabilize India. BJP says that the US deep state, in collaboration with George Soros and Rahul Gandhi, is working to undermine Narendra Modi and India. They also say that the media group OCCRP, which basically has published investigative reports about Adani's activities, is essentially funded by the United States government and therefore just goes after US enemies. And finally, they are also alleging that the US deep state is involved in other destabilizing activities in the country. And the biggest culprit of this is Rahul Gandhi, who is essentially a traitor to India. So it's pretty strong language has been used by the Bharatiya Janata Party. Now, this comes as a great surprise to everybody who studies India-US relations. Everybody, including Dr. Jaishankar, says that, you couldn't have had better relations between India and US. Let me quote to you what Dr. Jaishankar himself said. Our relations with America will only grow. This is with regards to his hopes with regards to Donald Trump's presidency. Basically, he's implied that the India-US relationship is a train on steady tracks, no matter who takes the White House. And in a joint press briefing with the Australian counterpart, Penny Wong, Jaishankar confidently stated that India-US bond has not only survived but thrived through 5 different presidencies. He quipped, our relationship with the United States will only grow regardless of the election outcome. So basically, he says that the United States and India's relations are pretty stable, and therefore there's no fear of the relationship going bad. If you recall that a few days ago, I did a video raising the issue or asking the question if Western governments were targeting people around Narendra Modi with the explicit purpose of either undermining Narendra Modi's legitimacy internationally, or perhaps indeed that these people are indulging in those activities. So, for example, there is a case against Raw agent, now supposedly a former Raw agent who is accused of murder for hire in the United States. He's actually in the US custody, and there is a case proceeding against him. And there are expectations that he's going to point finger at higher officials. The Canadian government claims that similar activities in Canada with the assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar was not just carried out by Indian diplomats and officials, but was actually orchestrated by Amit Shah, who is the right-hand man of Narendra Modi and India's current home minister, and has been home minister for a while now. They also are targeting Ajit Doval, but in a private, shall we say, a civil suit, not a criminal case, in which he is accused of plotting to assassinate basically Gurpatwant Singh Panno, a Khalistani activist who lives in the United States and is a US citizen. So between the US and Canada, the governments have been targeting Amit Shah, Ajit Doval, senior diplomats in Canada, and people in the Indian intelligence agency. And now also Adani, who is actually been indicted. Adani is seen as someone who's basically very close to Narendra Modi. Narendra Modi has helped Adani get many contracts in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka, in Israel. And many people feel that Narendra Modi's backbone, financial backbone, is Gautam Adani. And that's probably why Rahul Gandhi targets Adani, because he feels that there is a crony capitalism taking place, and Adani gets lots of favors from the Modi government, and in return, he bankrolls the BJP. So the question now arises, really, is, so the BJP has made these accusations, but when Dr. Jaishankar is asked about it, he doesn't talk about it. He doesn't talk about the deep state. None of these accusations are coming from the Ministry of External Affairs or Dr. Jaishankar. But a party activist has made that accusations. I think that if the US government objects very strongly to what Sambit Patra has said and takes some kind of punitive action, then I think Dr. Jaishankar and Prime Minister Modi will immediately disavow Sambit Patra and say, oh, he's nobody, he's just a fringe element like Nipur Sharma was, and Mr. Sambit Patra will be sacrificed and he will disappear from the public sphere. If the US takes very strong umbrage and gets very angry with this particular statement from the BJP, given how weak the Joe Biden administration is, and how much on the back foot Biden is at the moment, because his own party members are criticizing him and literally calling him a hypocrite for lying to the American people that he would not pardon his own son, which he went on to do. So right now, the Biden administration is struggling to save Biden's legacy. So I'm not sure whether they're going to really pay attention to what a BJP activist is saying. Maybe the US ambassador to India might say something about it. I haven't seen any statements from him yet. But nevertheless, I think this is the thing. Dr. Jaishankar remains innocent without having made any negative comments about the US. The India-US relations are good and will get better. But if the US doesn't really respond to what Sambit Patra said, then that accusations from India that the United States is trying to destabilize India and Rahul Gandhi is essentially an agent of George Soros as well as the deep state in the United States will stand and essentially weaken any challenges to the Modi government within India. Already accusations are floating around in the media that the United States government was behind the regime change in Bangladesh, and apparently the United States government is promoting Islamic radicalism in Bangladesh after having fought a 20-year war of terror against the so-called Islamic radicalism. Why would the United States try to bring it back in Bangladesh? I don't understand that, but the Indian media is propagating that idea that for whatever reason the U.S. government and the Biden administration wants to establish a Taliban-like government in Bangladesh. I think the Indian government should be happy if that is the case, because of all the countries in South Asia, one of the countries with whom India has very good relations is with the Afghan government, which is run by the Taliban. Given how good relations India has with the Taliban in Afghanistan, they should be happy if the Taliban are coming to power in Bangladesh. And of course, there are also lots of chatter in media, not necessarily from mainstream politicians, but others implying that the United States is also responsible for the destabilization of Manipur and the violence in Manipur and all the weapons that the Kuki tribes who are of Christian faith are getting from the United States. So there's a lot of anti-US rhetoric being released by Prime Minister Modi's party, and I wonder what impact it is going to happen. It is possible that the Bharatiya Janata Party and its think tank thinks that accusing the deep state in the United States gives them the advantage of accusing the US, but also gives them the, shall we say, get out of jail card with the Trump administration, because the Trump administration has also accused the deep state in terms of the FBI for being targeted and unfairly prosecuted by the Department of Justice. So I think that the Bharatiya Janata Party says that we can accuse the US and still not pay the price for it, given that Donald Trump also thinks that there is such a thing as a deep state. The whole purpose of the Doge initiative by Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy is basically to cut down this so-called embedded deep state. But I think it is a bit of a risky thing to do because the Bangladesh issue is going to last for a while. And I really have no idea what Donald Trump is going to do about Bangladesh. But one thing is very clear, that Marco Rubio, who probably will be one of the easiest of Donald Trump's nominees to get confirmed for Secretary of State, he's a very strong advocate of Christianity. And so if he feels that Christians are being oppressed in India, then he probably will not take as kindly to India as one might expect. But he must also remember that in July, Marco Rubio introduced a law to promote. He introduced a bill in the parliament, in the Senate, which has not really gone very far, but to promote an India-US defense pact, which will elevate India to the status of an ally. So if India wants to buy weapons, it will go through much faster with less scrutiny. It's like selling weapons to Israel or to Great Britain. And that is the kind of law that Marco Rubio has introduced in the Senate in July, I think. So it's quite possible that Marco Rubio, who is seen as a China hawk, will again seek to cement the US relations with India in order to contain China. And so I think the Indian government feel a bit upbeat about Donald Trump and his incoming staff, because they feel that perhaps a lot of them are going to be sympathetic towards India because they are so anti-China. But the question remains is that will their sympathy towards India as a potential ally against China make them overlook all the things that the current administration has accused India of? One is transnational repression, trying to kill American citizens in America. Number two, will Adani's cases simply disappear? If Adani's cases disappear, then the accusations that Donald Trump made about Joe Biden's Department of Justice as something that is politically motivated and not above the law will be validated, because now Donald Trump will be making political decisions and not keeping the Department of Justice independent. So we will see what happens with that. But this is a serious development, and I don't think that this accusation that the Bharatiya Janata Party is making primarily to try to basically whitewash Gautam Adani's image in India. Nobody outside India are going to believe this. Even the idea that there is a deep state in the United States is a bit questionable, because every time a new president comes in, he removes the top 4 or 5 layers of the bureaucracy. So the Secretary of State, the deputy secretaries, the assistant secretaries, the deputy assistant secretaries, and even directors of the program. So 5 layers in each of these agencies of the government are often replaced by the president's men and women. So the idea that there is a deep state really comes from the fact that there is a strong bureaucracy, civil services, people who have been in the government for 20, 30 years. You could argue that those countries may have a deep state, but in the United States, there are very few agencies where there are people who remain on top for a long time. One of those positions was the director of FBI, who is appointed for 10 years. So it is quite possible that Trump will break that, and he will fire the current. He's clearly announced that he's going to fire the current director of the FBI before he completes his term, and he's going to replace him with Kash Patel. So we will see what happens with that notion. But these are conspiracy theories, and it is quite possible that we will see basically what happens in the Adani case. If he is proven guilty in the US courts, then it will be a real test whether the Modi government will decide to undermine its relations with the US when it has a president who is very mercurial, who can change his position very quickly to save Adani. So that will be very interesting. But if Adani wins his cases, then of course the issue becomes moot, really. So I think that this was an interesting, surprising, and unexpected development that the Bharatiya Janata Party has decided to accuse the United States of trying to destabilize India, especially at a time when the US and India are trying to become great partners. There is so much of suspicion of the United States going all the way back to 1971. And I think it is not in the interest of India in the long run, if it wishes to have long-term relations with the United States, to sow such hatred and suspicion of the United States just to save Adani. So anyway, I hope you found this conversation interesting, thought-provoking. So please subscribe to Khanversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this with your socio-political network. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan. Take care.